right, next racing fans. Just wanted to make sort of like a educational video. I've been getting a lot of questions on how a wishbone works and how a anti-roll bar works. So we're gonna go over that here today. I'm gonna go get the camera switched around so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about, and we can go over how exactly the wishbone works and the anti-roll bar. All right, so let's go ahead and get this switched around. All right, guys, so we're going to go over the wishbone first and exactly how a wishbone works. If you don't know what a wishbone is, this is a wishbone right here, where it's sitting in my drag car that I'm currently building. It's a RX-8 that's going to be running a 4-cylinder. Been building this here for a couple months now, and basically we've got the rear frame welded in. We have all the rear section basically done, except for we need a third member and we need the wheelie bars, but other than that, basically everything else is somewhat done. So let's go over basically a wishbone. So you have two ways of mounting the wishbone. So the first way is how I have it here. You have the 2 points connected to the rear housing and the 1 point connected to the front of the frame. Or you can flip it to you have the 1 point connected to the bottom of the rear housing, and then the 2 points connected to the frame over here. Either way, it's going to do basically the same thing. A lot of people do prefer that the 1 point be mounted to the rear frame, the rear housing, and the 2 points be mounted to the frame. But it does the same exact thing. So, there's no difference here. So, what a wishbone basically does is it prevents the rear housing from moving side to side. And so, without this, you have nothing that's holding the rear section from going side to side. These bars here will tilt that way. These bars here tilt this way and that way. So there's really nothing holding it from being dead center. Now, people say, well, how can this wishbone keep the rear housing centered with a bolt point here and this being able to turn left and right? Obviously, if you have a bolt here, the bolt, it's not preventing this wishbone from turning left or right. So, in a sense, you are correct that it does turn left to right, the wishbone, but we have to get technical with it. So, let's just say we have the bolt point here, right? We have the wishbone. Now, if I go to turn this wishbone this way to the left, it's not going to go straight to the left this way. This wishbone is going to go based off of this bolt here. It's going to go in a circle. So it's going to turn, and it's going to turn inward and come around and basically go in a 360 and come back around the other way. So basically you can have this wishbone turn all the way around this way and look the exact same way it looks now, but turn this way. Obviously, if this frame wasn't here and we just had this one bolt point here. So if you think about it, right? If the rear housing wanted to go, let's just say, technically this is the right, but with the camera angle, we're going to say our left. So let's just say the rear housing wants to go to the left. The only way it can go to the left if it goes straight to the left. So without any curvature in it. So it can't come in this way because obviously the 4-link bars are not going to let this side of the housing come in this way. This way of the housing is not going to let the housing go out that way. And same thing vice versa. This housing can't go to the right over here and come in because of the 4-link bars. And it can't go back out that way because of these 4-link bars. It's going to push in on the 4-link bars and it's not going to allow it to move anywhere. So if you think about it, right? This wishbone can only go in a circular motion. It can only go slanted in a circular motion. It can't go straight out that way. So if the housing wanted to move to the left, this whole wishbone would have to go to the left this way. But since it goes in a circle motion, it turns at these 2 points here, it turns this way inward. Let's just say it's turning inward. The housing can't turn inward because of the 4-link bars. The 4-link bars are preventing the housing from going inward. Same thing if we go the opposite way. If we wanted the housing to go to the right, if it goes to the right, the wishbone is going to make it go to the right, but it's going to push it inward. And when it pushes it inward, because it's going to turn on a circular motion, once it turns inward, it's going to push up against these 4-link bars, and it's not going to allow it to go to the right. So that's what prevents the housing from going left to right. And right now I'm pushing up against a tire to show you guys that it's not going anywhere. It's stuck there. So that's how the wishbone works. So basically, the housing can only go left or right. It can't come inwards this way, and it can't come inward this way, or it can't go outward, it can't go outward, because of the 4-link bars. And then you have the wishbone, which is preventing it from going right to left, because the only way it can go left is if it comes in inwards. And you have the 4-link bars blocking it here. Go to the right, the 4-link bars are blocking it here. So that's how basically the wishbone works. And the same thing is if you turn it around, if you put this 1 point over there and you put those 2 points here, is the same concept. If it goes to the right, it's going to put pressure on the bars, and it's also going to put pressure on those points over here as well. So that's how a wishbone works. It keeps, basically the purpose of it is to keep the center housing centered so that it doesn't move left or right when you're driving. All right. Now we're going to go over the anti-roll bar really quick. So the anti-roll bar is this bar right here. You can see it's attached here, attached down to the housing, attached here, attached down to the housing. And what this does is it prevents what they call the vehicle from rolling. And what we mean by rolling is not technically rolling the car, but what we mean is lifting one side of the vehicle up in the air. So let's just say the car does a wheelie, all right? When the car does a wheelie, you want both wheels to come up at the same time, at the same spot, and come down at the same time. You don't want one side of the car to come up and the other side to stay down, because then you're really, one, you're going to lose traction that way, and two, you're not going to have much control over the vehicle steering wise, because you're only really going to have one wheel on the ground and the other one's going to be up in the air. So what this anti-roll bar does is it prevents the vehicle from kind of rolling. What they mean by rolling is one side coming up on by itself and the other side staying down on the front of the vehicle. So for the, let's just say the front right wheel comes up in the air, and you'll see a lot of times in certain drag cars that don't have an anti-roll bar, where the front right wheel will come up in the air and the left side of the vehicle stays on the ground. And you'll see it for about 330 down the track. You'll see it stay up like that, and then it'll come back down. So what this does, it prevents that from happening. And what it does is that it prevents the housing from one side of the housing coming up and the other side of the housing staying down. So what it does is the housing, when it goes up or down, it has on both sides has to come up or down at the same exact time. So this anti-roll bar, what it does is it prevents, let's just say, this side of the housing from coming up and this side staying down, which will cause the front of the car, one side of it to wheelie and the other side not to. And so now that, you know, we have this bar here, this bar is connected all in one piece. It has to go up and down at the same time. So this piece here and this piece here, they have to go up and down at the same time. So it's connected to the rear housing, so it has to go up and down at the same exact time. So what this does is it helps prevent the vehicle from the front from wheeling on one wheel and not both wheels at the same time. So now with this bar in here, when you do a wheelie, both of the front wheels will come up at the same exact time and then come back down. So this helps, like I said, prevent the vehicle from rolling on itself in regards to one side of it coming up and the other side not. For me, if you're building any type of drag car, this is a must-have. For me, this is more of a safety concern, because if you, like I said, if you have one side of the vehicle coming up and not the other, you're not going to have much control of that vehicle with only having one tire on the ground on the front. So that's how the anti-roll bar works. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, that's how the anti-roll bar works. Explain how the wishbone works. If you guys have any questions on how anything else back here works, or anything else and related to a drag car works, go ahead, please hit that subscribe button, hit the follow, like, comment. I'll reply to all comments, whatever comment, good, bad, and the ugly. Comment away. But please subscribe to the channel. I appreciate everybody that's watched it this far. Subscribing doesn't cost you anything. It helps me out tremendously. Definitely trying to build up my subscribers so that I can start doing these videos full time. so that you guys can get an update on exactly what's going on with the build here. All right? So remember, stay tuned. We're next racing.